Hi everyone, this is Yana Smakula and thank you for stopping by today. In this video, I'd like to talk a bit about how I choose colors for my card making projects. I often struggle with selecting the best color combination, and I usually tend to go with a few of my go-to color combos. However, I also use a color combo chart or guide that I have found to be extremely helpful for me to try out new color combinations. So by sharing this video and this information, I hope that you might also find my way of choosing color combos helpful to you. A couple years ago, I printed a bunch of the color palettes off the internet. I saved them from Pinterest and from different websites, so I saved them to my computer and printed these little color palettes on my printer. These are cut to 6 by 6 inches, and I have basically 4 different color palettes or images printed onto each sheet, and the sheets are single-sided. I printed those out onto the cheapest matte photo paper that I had at the moment. I didn't want to use regular printer paper because the colors of these images would not have been as vibrant and not as true to life as they are on photo paper. I also did not want to use expensive photo paper at the time as I wasn't sure that I'll be using these printouts. I honestly do not think that you need to use more expensive photo paper for these. I find these printed color palettes to be extremely helpful when I need to pick out the colors or color combo for a project. If I struggle with colors, with combining colors, this is a tool that I use. Although you can't technically call this a tool, but I do see this as a tool in my craft room. So in the background, I have lots of different products as I was working on a wedding card, and I didn't plan to turn that into a video. But as I once again struggled with selecting the perfect color combo, I figured that me sharing this color combo chart might also be useful to other people. So hopefully you, if you struggle with selecting that perfect color combination for a project, might find this useful. So again, you can go to Pinterest, search for color palettes, save the ones that you like on your computer, and then print. You can print them onto bigger sheets and then trim them into smaller size, or if you have a special storage system, like a coin storage system for your ink swatches, you can size those to fit into that storage system. So basically, you want to choose the format that best works for you. This 6 by 6 size works for me because I don't have a big desk, and anything bigger just ends up taking too much room and prevents me from crafting efficiently. So this 6 by 6 size is perfect for me. I also don't have these connected, so basically they are loose sheets that are stacked on top of each other, and this is because I like to flip through them. I like having a couple of sheets on my desk, I like to compare a few, and so on. And because I had them printed on photo paper, they are a little bit more durable and the ink is permanent there. I've had those for a few years now and I do use these quite often, and you can see they are as good as new. So I'm working on a wedding card today, and I want to use Vintage Flowers stamp set from Alt New. And I already figured out the layout that I want to have on my card. I have a card base made out of spicy yogurt cardstock, also by Alt New. I have a couple of antique trims, and I also laid out the stamps that I want to see on my card. But I'm not quite sure about the colors of ink that I want to use, and this is something I often struggle with. And this is why I had this color combo chart printed in the first place. So far, I've picked out 2 color palettes that I like, that really caught my eye. I've been enjoying using peach colors on my projects lately, so I was really drawn towards this color palette here. So there is a peach poppy, and there is also a lot of gray color in the background, and this looked like a beautiful color combo to try. For my Alt New inks, I went ahead and pre-stamped a bunch of different color combos just so that I could easily see if the colors work together and how they look together. And I wrote down the names of the inks that I used under the stamped images. And I have those compiled into one photo that you can take a closer look at on my blog, and I'll link to that blog post below. And if you have a lot of color layering stamp sets and a lot of different colors of ink, I really encourage you to do the same. Grab a flower or another image that you like and stamp a bunch of different color combos and write down the names of these inks. This is very helpful and saves a ton of time. So as I looked through my swatches, I found this one that was a perfect match to my peach flower in the selected color palette. So this is what I'm going to use. This is what I'm going to start with. I have the colors listed there, so I'm all set with this particular one. Now I also love the grays in this photo, and I have this other flower stamped in gray colors, and this is what I'm going to use for the leaves on my card. Again, I have the colors listed on that piece of paper, so I already know what colors of ink I need to reach for. As I was going through my color palette sheets, I also came across this other color palette that I loved. The colors there are very similar to the first palette, but they are much warmer. And since I'm making a wedding card, I don't want it to be cold. I want it to have some warm colors in there as well. There are more reds in this color palette, more warm browns, and this is what I'll try to incorporate into my project. I don't have this particular color combo stamped out, but if I grab my ink chart, I can pretty much decide on the colors in a couple of seconds. So for the first color combo, I'll use blush, perfect peach, rouge, and crimson. And for the second, I'll again start with blush and perfect peach, but I'll also add paper bag and dark chocolate. And before we move on, I wanted to quickly share a look at my pre-stamped color combos, these little flowers. I really do think that they are super helpful and save me a ton of time when I need to see how the inks actually stamp and layer. And I also wanted to quickly flip through the color palettes that I have printed. I have quite a lot of those, and to be honest, there are some palettes that I haven't ever used. But again, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to use these in the future. When I go to save these color palettes, when I search for them, I don't just look at the colors. I also look at the photo itself and see if I find that photo to be inspiring. Often, I would not use the colors or I would not start with the colors, but I would start with the photo as inspiration for the card, and I would also use the colors, but the photo would be the starting point. So this palm tree and the sunset background, for example, this inspired one of the cards I shared previously on my blog, and I'll link to that card where I die cut a palm tree and created an ink-blended sunset background. Let's go back to the card. So now that I have everything I need to create my card, I'm going to go ahead and start stamping. I'm using a Mini Misty stamp positioner today to be able to better align the images. This Vintage Flowers stamp set has a few flowers that are particularly hard to align, so using a Misty here is very helpful. To be better align the larger flower, I'm first going to stamp the outline, so that would be the fourth layer, using the darker color of ink. And this will allow me to better position the next layers, which will all be stamped in very light colors. I've placed the first layer and I'm going to stamp it using the lightest color, and you can see how I was able to perfectly align that. I'm going to continue stamping this flower by layering the second and then the third layer to create one large multicolored flower for my project. Now I want to have two large flowers and a bunch of smaller florals on my card, so I'm going to stamp the same flower once again using that other color combo, the warmer color combo that I spotted on the second color palette. I'm repeating the same steps here and stamping the second identical flower but using warmer and darker ink colors. To stamp the leaves, I'm using grays, and these are the three lighter colors of gray ink from Alt New. I'm using Morning Frost, Evening Gray, and Moon Rock. Finally, I'm going to stamp a few more smaller flowers, and I'm using the first lighter color combo for these. I'll have all the ink colors listed in the video description below this video and also on my blog if you're interested in specific colors. I used matching dies to cut these images out, and I'm going to start arranging them onto the card base the way I like. You might notice I skipped the antique trims that I had planned to use at the beginning of this video, as I felt they were a little bit out of place on this card. Once I had the image placement figured out, and once my floral cluster was ready, I adhered the images onto the card base. I used foam adhesive as well as glue to adhere these down. I mostly used foam adhesive, and I foam mounted the flowers and parts of the leaves. To finish this card, I'm heat embossing on this Special Day Sentiment, and I used platinum embossing powder, and I'm going to trim this into a strip and foam mount onto the floral cluster. At this point, I felt that my card was still a little bit too cold, so I decided I needed to add several sequins in warm colors to warm this project up just a little bit. I used rose gold 6mm sequins from Pretty Pink Posh, along with clear sequins and clear drops, and that seemed to have done the trick. So here's a closer look at this card and the main color combo that I used, and you can really see how easy it was to take an existing color combo and implement it on a card. If you're interested in the products I used, I have them linked down below in my YouTube description. Here are a few more fun videos on my channel featuring stamping. First one shows creating a patterned paper and matching embellishments using stamps. The second one talks about my perfect card making formula, and it actually uses the same vintage flowers stamp set. And the third one is all about stamping tropical patterns with color layering stamps. Be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet done so, and thank you so much for watching.